Second Chronicles, chapters 9 and 10. The Queen of Sheba heard of Solomon's fame, so she came to test Solomon with difficult questions at Jerusalem, with a very large entourage with camels bearing spices, gold in abundance, and precious stones. She came to Solomon and spoke with him about everything that was on her mind. So Solomon answered all her questions. Nothing was too difficult for Solomon to explain to her. When the Queen of Sheba observed Solomon's wisdom, the palace he had built, the food at his table, his servants' residence, his attendants' service and their attire, his cupbearers and their attire, and the burnt offerings he offered at the Lord's temple, it took her breath away. She said to the king, the report I heard in my own country about your words, about your wisdom is true, but I didn't believe the reports until I came and saw with my own eyes. Indeed, I was not even told half of your great wisdom. You far exceed the report I heard. How happy are your men, how happy are these servants of yours, who always stand in your presence, hearing your wisdom. Blessed be the Lord your God. He delighted in you and put you in his throne as king for the Lord your God, because your God loved Israel enough to establish them forever. He has set you over them as king to carry out justice and righteousness. Then she gave the king 4.5 tons of gold, a great quantity of spices and precious stones. There never were such spices as those the queen. In addition, Hiram's servants and Solomon's servants, who brought gold from Ophir, also brought algum wood and precious stones. The king made the algum wood into walkways for the Lord's temple and for the king's palace, and into lyres and harps for the singers. Never before had anything like them been seen in the land of Judah. King Solomon gave the Queen of Sheba her every desire, whatever she asked, far more than she had brought the king. Then she, along with her servants, returned to her own country. The weight of the gold that came to Solomon annually was 25 tons, besides what was brought by the merchants and traders. All the Arabian kings and governors of the land also brought gold and silver to Solomon. King Solomon made 200 large shields of hammered gold. 15 pounds of hammered gold went into each shield. He made 300 small shields of hammered gold. 7.5 pounds of gold went into each shield. The king put them in the house of the forest of Lebanon. The king also made a very large ivory throne and overlaid it with pure gold. The throne had 6 steps. There was a footstool covered in gold, with the throne armrests on either side of the seat, and 2 lions standing beside the armrests. 12 lions were standing there in the 6 steps on each end. Nothing like it had ever been made in any other kingdom. All of King Solomon's drinking cups were gold, and all the utensils of the house of the forest of Lebanon were pure gold. There was no silver, since it was considered as nothing in Solomon's time, for the king's ship kept going to Tarshish with Hiram's servant, and once every 3 years the ship of Tarshish would arrive bearing gold, silver, ivory, apes, and peacocks. Solomon surpassed riches and wisdom. All the kings of the world wanted an audience with Solomon to hear his wisdom God had put in his heart. Each of them would bring his own gift, items of silver and gold, clothing, weapons, spices, horses, mules, as an annual tribute. Solomon had 4,000 stalls of horses and chariots and 12,000 horsemen. He stationed them in the chariot cities and with the king in Jerusalem. He ruled over all the kings from the Euphrates River to the land of the Philistines, and as far as the border of Egypt. The king made silver as common in Jerusalem as stones, and he made cedar as abundant as sycamore in the Judean foothills. They were bringing horses for Solomon from Egypt and from all the countries. The The remaining servants, I'm sorry, the remaining events of Solomon's reign from the beginning to end are written in the events of the prophet Nathan, the prophecy of Ahijah the Shilonite, and the vision of seer Iddo concerning Jeroboam son of Nebat. Solomon reigned in Jerusalem over all Israel for 40 years. Solomon rested with his fathers and was buried in the city of his father David. His son Rehoboam became king in his place. Then Rehoboam went to Shechem, for all Israel had gone to Shechem to make him king. When Jeroboam son of Nebat heard about it, for he was in Egypt, where he had fled from King Solomon's presence, Jeroboam returned from Egypt, so they summoned him. Then Jeroboam and all Israel came and spoke to Rehoboam, "Your father made our yoke harsh. Therefore lighten your father's harsh service and the heavy yoke he put on us, and we will serve you." Rehoboam replied, "Return to me in 3 days." So the people left. King Rehoboam consulted with the elders who had attended his father Solomon when he was alive, asking, "How do you advise me to respond to this people?" They replied, "If you will be kind to this people and please them by speaking kind words to them, they will be your servants forever." But he rejected the advice of the elders who had advised him, and he consulted with the young men who had grown up with him, the ones attending him. He asked them, "What message do you advise we send back to this people?" Who said to me, "Lighten the yoke for your father has put on us." The young men who had grown up with him told him, "This is what you should say to the people who said to you, 'Your father made our yoke heavy, but you make it lighter on us.' This is what you should say to them: 'My little finger is thicker than my father's waist. Now, therefore, my father burdened you with a heavy yoke, but I will add to your yoke. My father disciplined you with whips, but I with barbed wires." So Jeroboam and all the people came to Rehoboam on the third day, just as the king had ordered, saying, "Return to me on the third day." Then the king answered them harshly. King Rehoboam rejected the elders' advice and spoke to them according to the young men's advice, saying, "My father made your yoke very heavy, but I will add to it. My father disciplined you with whips, but I with barbed wires." The king did not listen to the people because the turn of events came from God, in order that the Lord might carry out his word that he had spoken through Ahijah the Shilonite to Jeroboam son of Nebat. When all Israel saw that the king had not listened to them, the people answered the king, "What portion do we have in David? We have no inheritance in the son of Jesse. Israel, each to your tent. David, look after your own house now." So all Israel went to their tents. But as for the Israelites living in the cities of Judah, Rehoboam reigned over them. Then King Rehoboam sent Hadoram, who was in charge of the forced labor, but the Israelites stoned him to death. However, King Rehoboam managed to get into his chariot to flee Jerusalem. Israel is in rebellion against the house of David until today.